Welcome everyone. And goete for the people who are eating. Enjoy your lunch. It's really nice to see. Yes, nice. I see some plates. I see some waving. Really nice. Thank you so much for joining. Today is actually the last Startup Story event of the year. We had, I think, 13 or 14 of them this year. So I'm really happy to finish it off with a really important topic about founders' health today with two really amazing speakers that you will see just in a moment. But before that, I just quickly want to introduce the organizing team. That's Vanessa, also here.
Hello, everyone.
Exactly. Vanessa is from the Startup Campus, and she is leading marketing and community building. And my name is Linda, and I work at the Impact Hub in Zurich, and I'm a project manager there. So quickly, just to tell you a little bit about what's on the agenda today. So we do a quick welcome by the Startup Campus and Impact Hub Zurich. And then we will jump in about like 5 to 10 minutes into the panel discussion. Here we have Cindy König, who is from Nutrition Zurich, and Karin and Stephan from Earkick. I'm super happy to have both of them here. Both of them have a big connection, actually, also to the Impact Hub, especially Karin, who has also been working here. So it's really nice to see both familiar faces on here today. Thanks for being here. And then for the last about 30 minutes, we will open up in a Q&A format. So for anyone who has questions, it would be super nice to have this as open as possible. So you can feel free to ask your questions. We still have Karin and Cindy here with us, so they can provide you with some answers at the end. But if you do have burning questions in the meantime, you can write them in the chat. So we can either save them for the end, or I can also see if it fits. I can also introduce it into the panel discussion. And then we'll finish it up at, I wrote 1:25, but I meant to say at 1:30. We'll see how it goes, but max at 1:30. Good. To start it off, I would love to, I see there is about 32 participants at the moment. I would love to see a little bit about what aspects of health that you are currently struggling to improve in your life. Just to kick off the conversation a bit, to see who's here, what kind of topics you're mainly struggling with. You can write it into the chat. You can just write one word in there. You can write, I see already people got what we're talking about. Okay, sleep, snacking, physical activity, meditating regularly. I also struggle with that. Work-life balance, sleep. Yeah, okay, so I see some common pattern here. It's really nice to see just approximately what kind of struggles most of us are having. That way also Karin and Cindy can prepare themselves mentally and keep it as a mental note for afterwards. Also, I would love to know what kind of if this event was kind of targeted towards founders. I would love to see, are there any founders on the call? You can, or are you a co-founder, are you a founder, are you trying to build your company right now? Are you dreaming about entrepreneurship? Are you far away from that? Just tell us a little bit more about who you are, so we can also target our conversation a little bit around that. You can also write that into the chat. So for, founder, building and starting, fundraising, founder, working on an idea, no startup yet. Not an entrepreneur, but has an idea. Founder. Okay, community, yes, Johanna. Very important. Working on an idea. Okay, good. Yeah, so I think we have some founders, we have some people who are currently thinking about founding, who have an idea. And some people who are not in being a founder right now. So that's really good to see. Good. So now that we've warmed up a bit, I would love to tell you a little bit more about the Startup Campus and what we're doing before we then jump into the actual panel discussion. But thank you so much for participating. It's super nice to see that people are willing to share, so we can have it a bit lively. Good. So just shortly, what is Startup Campus? We have different programs here at Startup Campus. One of them is called Business Ideas. This is the module 1, and this is actually something you are part of right now. So right now you're in a Startup Story event. We do these events on a very regular basis. As I said, this year I think we had 13. Other topics that we covered this year is how to find a good co-founder, both legally and also how to write a good job description, how to build a startup with an exit strategy, how to deal with failure. We had 2 startups sharing about their ideas in circular economy. So yeah, we have a variety of different topics. If you're interested in them, you can scan the QR code here. Currently, there are not that many up on the website because we're still planning on what kinds of cool events we can bring to you in 2024, but stay updated here. Then, because we saw here that many of you are founders or thinking about ideas at the moment, this could be a good opportunity for you. This is our module 2, the business concept course. This course is targeted to anyone who is looking to improve their skills on a business side of things. So maybe you are more on a technical side at the moment, maybe you are enrolled at a university and you have never really learned so much about the business side of things. This is a super good opportunity if you want to learn about how to write a good business model, about your value proposition, some IP strategies, for example. You get some coaching, one-on-one coaching. You learn how to pitch, and at the end of the 12-week course, you actually get to meet the ecosystem as well. So that's when we invite all the ecosystem partners here in our region. We have some law firms that are joining. We have co-working spaces that are there. We have accelerators, we have VCs and angel investors. So we really try to bring together the whole ecosystem so the participants of this course can then meet with the ecosystem. We actually had this event just on Monday and it was a super nice event. So if you join us for the next session, that will start in February. So scan the QR code here, and we'll also share the link in the chat so you can sign up for that. Then we have 2 more modules, that's module 3 and 4, and these are targeted more towards social entrepreneurship. These are called business creation and business course. And for those, you learn also similar things as in the module 2, but really with a focus on social entrepreneurship. So there you also learn about the product development with a focus on social entrepreneurship. You learn some strategies of how you can actually measure and manage your impact that you're having. And also if you then pitching, what's something that you need to focus on from the lenses of a social entrepreneur. Yes, so these are also, I think Vanessa is just sharing the links here right now for these 2 as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Good. Then, if you want to stay up to date on all of our events that we're having, follow us on social media. There you can see all the deadlines. We'll post the new events that are coming, also former events that we had if you missed them. So yeah, I encourage you to follow us on here. Good. That was that for my monologue. And now I would love to, actually start with the panel discussion. So as I said before, we have 2 amazing panelists here today. That's for one, Cindy König, who's the founder at Nutrition Zurich. And we have Karin Stephan, who is the co-founder and CEO at Earkick. And I think for me, it's a super important topic because we can focus I want to focus on both mental and physical health. And that's why we have 2 experts that are both experts within their respective fields. I think as a founder, it's really, really difficult to combine and focus on your health if you have to kind of really work hard and all the time and sacrifice sleep and food and a lot of things in your life to actually be able to survive with your company. There's also a little bit of a trend towards sacrificing your health. I would also love to address that. We can come to that in a little bit. But for now, I would love to hear from both of you just a bit. Maybe you can introduce yourself, what you're currently working on, and what sort of your motivation is to combine health and with the aspect for founders. So maybe Cindy, if you want to jump it off, I will stop to screen share just so that we can see your faces a bit better. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for the introduction, and of course for having me here. This is a topic that I could speak about day in and day out. So I really appreciate this opportunity. Hello to everyone. I hope that you are having a good lunch or will soon have a good lunch. So as Linda mentioned, I'm the founder of Nutrition Zurich, but if I may just take a few minutes, I would love to actually go way back to where my interest started in this junction between entrepreneurship and health. And I would share a little story as far back as I can remember, watching my dad succeed as a serial entrepreneur. So he started as an independent taxi driver. He had no formal education. Then he started selling cell phone accessories. Now, mind you, giving away my age, this was a time when cell phones, the personal cell phone, was just becoming a thing. He owned a chain of fish takeaways, and eventually he built up a steel supply and a construction company that's still going today. My dad just had a way of making things happen. He was someone who solved problems. Just everything he touched, he seemed to just make happen. And this was true for everything except for his health. So he had an unbelievable work ethic. When he set out to do something, he achieved it, but not with his health. So as a teenager, I can remember him trying all these different diets. Every 2 weeks was something new. One that sticks out in my mind very vividly is a soup diet, because of the way that the house smelled when he did this diet. And luckily for me at the time, it didn't last very long, so the smell soon left. But I could never understand why my dad could do everything but not make successful changes in his health. So if we fast forward about 10 years from this time, I studied clinical psychology, and I worked in a clinical psychology practice in Cape Town, South Africa, where I'm from. And I started to understand a bit better the pressures of work life and how it made it difficult to balance. Also fast forwarding for my dad, he became more unhealthy, more overweight, sadly was diagnosed with high blood pressure and eventually type 2 diabetes. And so I then moved to Switzerland, where I found out firsthand how working long hours and having short nights took a toll on my health. And I did what my dad did. I tried every trendy diet without any success. But then I did something that he didn't do. And that is turn to my scientific background in order to help me figure out what was going wrong with my health. And so I am very proud to say that I achieved a health transformation using the scientific method to stop following the trends, but to really take a different approach to my health. And I got the success he never got. I also started getting other people success by coaching them in a way that they never got around their health. And then I decided to do another postgraduate. I did my master's at the Department of Health Sciences and Medicine at the University of Zurich. I studied nutrition science at ETH Zurich. And eventually my dad agreed to do one of my programs. And through doing this program and taking this approach of combining behavioral science, so psychology, and nutrition science, he finally got the success I had seen him struggle with for over 30 years. He reversed his type 2 diabetes, got that into remission, lost 50 kilograms in the process, and is now on a very, very healthy path. He's still an entrepreneur. He still has ambitions, even at his age, but he is so, so much healthier. So I shared this personal story because that's where my passion for this topic of how to help entrepreneurs and business professionals to use the science and to give them support. And that's why I founded Nutrition Zurich, because I believe that founders, very busy professionals, actually need more support because they have this time pressure, because they have these demands. But when they have the support and when they are backed by science, they can still achieve an elevation of their health without having to sacrifice their entrepreneurial ambitions. So that's why I felt I wanted to share the story and the reasons why I founded Nutrition Zurich.
Thank you so much, Cindy, also for connecting it with your really, personal motivation. And I'm really glad to hear that your dad is better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. And Karin, it would be great to hear a little bit from your side as well.
Sure. So my passion for the intersection of health, mental health, and entrepreneurship is basically my diverse background. I have always been an entrepreneur since I was very, very little. And in my first life, I was a musician, professional musician, learned a lot of languages. I learned, how to lead bands, how to do shows, how to write music. And in music, people are like entrepreneurs because they struggle with the situation. It's really stressful to be a musician. And many of them don't get to be where they should be or where they could be in terms of talent and hard work because of mental health and because of health. So that was my first stint with it. And as I went on with my career and my own company that I built in the music industry, I kept asking myself, why is it that life throws us these curveballs that we can't deal with? What's going on? Why can't we be the best selves that we plan for ourselves? And while studying management psychology, which I went into after my first company, after studying and performing, I realized that at the core of most failure, of most suffering, of most problems, whether it's health or mental health, lies a deep disconnect. It is a disconnect between our bodies and our minds within us. It's a disconnect between us and others. It's a disconnect between us and nature, between us and the present, and between us and our communities, our environment. And we often misinterpret the cues that are given to us, whether from our own bodies or from outside. We ignore early signs within us and we just knuckle through, right? And then that leads us to misunderstandings within us, with others, with our co-founders, whatever, and mental health problems arise. And in essence, that means missed opportunities, and it means that we cannot rise to our true potential in life. And that is true for every person in a stressful environment, or as a founder, entrepreneurship mind, all that, people who create, and that's why I embarked on a mission to make early signs of mental health trends measurable and improvable for everyone, so that we all can have our best lives and that we can actually fulfill what we set out to do, that we can really have the strength to do the changes that we want to see in the world, whether it's something small or something huge. And we use cutting edge technology at my current startup, Earkick. We use AI, LLMs, and all that technology has to offer to really support people in not flying blind, in understanding when they have to make adjustments, and also get to know themselves better and become the person that they can be. So that's my motivation, the intersection of mental health, and entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, with both of your introductions, I feel really excited for this conversation. Just for the people in the audience to kind of know a little bit what to expect. First, I'd love to zoom out a little bit to talk about what is mental health, what is physical health, what's sort of the science behind it. Then I would love to move into seeing what happens if we neglect these things, and why we should care Then we can talk about some practical resources and practical tools, how to change things, what we can incorporate, maybe also looking at the new year, some good New Year's resolutions. And then we can finish it off with some key takeaways from both of you too. Yes, so then to kick it off, I would love to hear from both of you a bit, because I think there is quite an overload of information online in both of your fields. Health is something that's become way more popular. People care now. There's tons of information out there. There's almost a bit of you have to focus on your health. There's tons of resources out there. But it can be extremely overwhelming. So I think it's important to have this information from reliable sources. And therefore, maybe both of you can share a little bit about the definition of, Cindy, for you, physical health, Karin, for you, mental health. What does it actually mean? And what does the science behind it say at this time? Maybe Cindy, if you want to start off.
I'll start. Thank you very much. So if you look up the WHO definition of health, it's not just merely the absence of disease, but complete physical, mental, and social health and well-being. But because Karin is an expert in mental health, we focus a little bit more here on the physical health. So what does that mean? We know it doesn't just mean the absence of disease. So what does that mean for us? And what does that mean for the things that we have to do in order to maintain this physical health? So if I may, I would love to just share a little, if we can all see that, I would love to be able to share this. Yes, if everyone can maybe use the QR code, if you can see that.
Yeah, we can see it. Perfect.
Perfect. So hop on the QR code, or you can go to this. And then the question that I would love to get some feedback on is relating to, what do we need to survive as humans? Like literally in a biological sense, like what do we need? And I'm asking this question for you to rank in order. What can humans go the longest without and still survive? So as the answers come in, have a little look. So just to go over them, we have oxygen, so the air that we breathe. We have nutrients from the food that we eat. We have the recovery that we need when we sleep, so the clearing in the body and brain so that we can function again. And then water as well. So we'll give just a few more moments. And this is in time, so not necessarily in quantity, but in time. So, okay. So we can go, this is very interesting, we can go the longest actually without food. So there have been some experiments where people have gone 30 to even 60 days without food. And that's not because we don't need nutrients to function, we really do, but just because we have a storage of nutrients in the body. So if you have anything extra on the side, on your legs, on your back, those are all nutrients. So that body fat is storing nutrients that we can use to run our body on and fuel. Then after that, we can go longer time without sleep. So the experiment was done, the longest somebody didn't have sleep was 11 days. But we would already see after just one night of sleep deprivation, severe diminishment of functioning, both physically and mentally. But sleep 11 days, I don't recommend anybody try 11 days without sleep. Then we have water. So we can go on average 3 to 5 days without any water. Again, not recommended. You will not be feeling your best mentally or physically. And then finally, it's it's oxygen. So we can only go, like, well-trained people, 3 minutes without that oxygen. So it's very important. And what actually here is important is that we all clearly know that these are things we need for survival. We need oxygen, we need water, we need food, and we need sufficient sleep. But that doesn't speak to thriving. It doesn't speak to our functioning, our health. And what is a tricky part of a founder's life in particular is that there's such a list of demands that we might do just what we need to do for survival. So yes, we all eat. Yes, we all drink in some form or another. Yes, we all go to bed, we all sleep. And of course, we all breathe. But these things can be done in a way that can actually give us more physical and mental strength to do the work we need to do as founders. So if we can just understand a little bit more behind the science, but also behind the practices that we can do in order to really not just survive, but to thrive, we can actually increase our mental and physical health resources, just the way we would increase our financial resources in order to build up a more robust health to support us in the work that we do. So having said that, what are some of the things that from a nutritional perspective, so where my expertise really comes in, what are some of the things that we can try to think about to optimize for our nutrition in order to build up these resources? So I will share this. And this is a framework that you can use, because the reason why a lot of founders just jump to a quick fix to try to look for something that is simple to just implement, and also look for something that can really just radically change, is because we lack time, because we are so busy, we have so many demands that we often skip over the basics in trying to find this one hack that can really help us improve our health, because we know it's important. And what I propose we do instead is really zoom out, like you said, Linda, right? Let's zoom out and let's think about, what do we know from nutrition science? So I would start to say that, of course, it's different for everyone, and that's why I work with personalized programs, because it's so important that we find what works for us, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I just here want to focus on, instead of doing that next trendy diet, instead of trying to find that next quick fix, what do we know from nutrition science, and how can we use that to help us build that mental and physical health resource? Number one is going to be nutrient density. So this term is just a bit of a fancy term for saying that the food that we eat actually contains the nutrients we need. Like we saw, we know we need nutrients to survive, but how much we're getting from the food we eat is variable depending on the types of food we eat. Now, minimally processed foods, so we hear a lot about how bad processed foods are. The reason why people say let's focus on minimally processed foods is because they simply contain more nutrients. This doesn't mean you can't eat any processed foods. It doesn't mean there's any food police coming to check on you, but it just means that trying to have more nutrient dense whole foods in your diet generally is going to be a huge bang for your buck in terms of building up your physical resources. Then the next big rock to focus on, and what we know from nutrition science, is that energy balance matters. And what energy balance is, out there you have arguments, debates online, if it's really important or not. Let me tell you, it's important. And it basically just means that the energy that you consume and the energy that you expend. So this needs to be in balance. Now, it doesn't mean that this is the only thing you have to focus on, which is why I didn't start with it, but it means you need to be mindful, especially as somebody who's traveling a lot, or somebody like a founder who is attending a lot of events or going to a lot of business lunches. it's important that you are aware of what your body needs to maintain this energy balance. This is important for maintaining a healthy weight. Now, we're not talking about six-pack abs here. We are talking about what is a healthy weight that can prevent you from being at higher risk for these diseases, both mental diseases and physical diseases. Then the next foundational point, which we know in nutrition science, is the importance of protein. Now, whether you follow an omnivore diet or a vegetarian diet or even a vegan diet, protein can be found in various food sources, but getting enough and the right mix of the types of protein is important for our muscle mass. So the research shows how important muscle mass is, especially probably for most of us as founders, over 30. So once we get to 30 years old, we naturally lose muscle mass if we don't keep building it up. And this is especially important for when we want longevity. We don't just want health now, we want health when we're 40, 50, 60 years old. And getting adequate protein is important for this. Then we have vegetables. So it's kind of that thing your mom used to tell you, eat your vegetables, it's important for you. There is science behind this. So we know that getting enough vegetable and a variety of vegetables throughout your day is important for lowering the risk of all the chronic diseases that we currently face in society. And it can also help in our immune system, in combating stress, all those things that we face even more as founders. And then we have hydration. So yes, we know that drinking is important, but do we actually get enough to stay hydrated? Later on, we're going to talk about how we can look at that, how we can assess that, but staying hydrated is also something we know from nutrition science is extremely important for our physical health, for our bodily functions, also cognitively. We don't think as quickly when we don't drink enough, and also for our mood stabilization. So maybe you felt like your mood was dipping and you weren't realizing why. Part of that could have been that you were dehydrated. We just do not function at our best. Like Karin was saying, how can we be the best versions of ourselves? Staying hydrated is one of those tips. And Linda, I see you taking that advice right away there with a sip of your water. Fantastic. So a very quick summary, and you can take a screenshot of this. I'm also going to be sharing some more resources, but founders, it doesn't have to be that complicated. So I'm trying to bust through those myths that we have to eat perfectly and eat food that always looks so beautiful, like on social media. Like, we don't. These are some of the basic principles that we know from nutrition science that are going to give you the best ROI. So really the best return on investment of things that you can start adapting. And it doesn't mean doing it perfectly, but it means paying a little bit more attention to these principles. You might have noticed number 6 says beyond food. And the reason why I'm not going to go into this is because I'm going to let Karin share with us, but this is movement, how we move our bodies and how that makes us feel both physically and mentally. Sleep, which came up a lot in the beginning of the session. So how are we sleeping? Sleeping impacts our hunger, our cravings, our mental state the next day. And then also, how are we recovering? How are we getting our body into a state of rest? How are we using meditation? Are we using breath work? Are we using other mindful practices that can help us not only regulate how we eat, but how we move and how we feel? So I thank you so much. And I hope that that just simplifies things even a little bit so that we cannot feel so overwhelmed by the confusion and the choices out there. And I'm really looking forward to what you have to share on this topic, Karin.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for breaking it down so well, also visualizing so we can remember it well, and also putting it into order of what's most important at the end. It's just these 6 steps, so that seems a little bit more manageable if you think at it from that perspective. So thank you so much. And yes, Karin, I would love to hear what we have to look at from on a mental health perspective.
Yeah, lots have been written and said. Let me just give you one picture. We all 8 billion of us, we move on a continuum, on a spectrum of mental health, and it's very personal. So At this side, you have your worst mental health ever. And here you have your best mental health ever. And you move on that continuum on a daily basis, sometimes even hourly. And it says something about your emotional, your psychological, and your social well-being. And why is it important? Because it affects how you think, how you feel, and how you act, right? As a founder, very, very crucial to have some kind of control and understanding about that. It helps you determine how you handle stress. It affects how you relate to others, relationships, leadership, etc. And it also has an effect on how you make choices and decisions. So in essence, what you need to remember about that continuum is you stand there somewhere and you move around, and your mental health, whether it's good or bad, is your health. So mental health is health. And without health, there is no lasting success. And I don't mean financial it's just what you want to achieve in your life depends on how well you can manage this up and down on that spectrum. The connection between mental health and overall well-being is bi-directional, which means mental health influences your physical health and impacts your immune function, cardiovascular health, etc., your overall resilience. And conversely, physical health, including factors such as nutrition and exercise, everything that was already said, can significantly influence mood and cognitive function, all of which you need to be a very good and effective leader, founder. And now the demands of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial minds is often involves long hours of work, high levels of responsibility, frequent decision-making, etc. And especially chronic stress is something that is common and common to founders. It can lead to higher levels of cortisol, it impacts brain function, it impacts your sleep, it impacts so many things that are absolutely needed for you to be who you want to be and have the impact you want to have. So in a bad case, it contributes to anxiety, depression, hopelessness, lack of motivation, etc. But if you can switch it to the other side of your spectrum, then you can be the bold person, you can be resilient, you can be all these things. What I'm trying to get here at is like, mental health is very personal. It's in your hands, not all of it, but a big part of it. And you need to be aware of it so that you can manage it, right? So now when you think about founders and mental health, the brain's executive functions, the ones responsible for your tasks, for your decision-making, problem solving, etc., when they are impacted by bad mental health or things that kick you out of your routines, it can lead to mental fatigue and burnout and all these things that make that we cannot achieve our goals. And being an entrepreneur is dealing with uncertainty, with rejection, with a constant juggling of resources, be it resources of your body, but also money, etc. And it's inherently unstable, all of which can trigger your stress response and affect your mental well-being. So for founders facing intense pressure, recognizing the signs of mental health challenges, the trends, up and down on your own spectrum, you need to be able to act on them. And you need to act them not once a year on the 1st of January, but throughout the whole year. Because mental health, in essence, is an early detection of problems that might trickle into every corner of your life. And that's why at EarKick, which is my mental health tech startup, EarKick addresses these challenges by empowering you to measure where you're at on your own spectrum and improve while things are small, while trends are still early, rather than waiting and having the big surprise of your life that you can no longer continue. So once you gain insights into your well-being and where you stand on that spectrum and how you move and what triggers you, etc., it enables you to be the captain of your life, navigate the demands of entrepreneurship more effectively and in a timely manner.
Thank you so much, Karin. Yeah, I think what you mentioned about, so yeah, with the focus on founders, and that it's a bit of a different story for founders as well because of the lack of all other resources. I would love to move into a bit more of the ugly side of this, because I think it hits deeper. If you can maybe visualize it a bit more, because I've been working with startups now, I think for about 5 years, and I see this huge trend in founders that it's the hustle culture, the grind culture. Everyone is a bit on the verge of a burnout, and it's not being celebrated, but it's a bit of a almost, it's badge of honor, kind of, if you are an entrepreneur and you are really sacrificing your health for it. Can you paint us a picture of what are the bad things that can happen on the physical and mental side if we are neglecting our health? Because I think if you're healthy and you're fine right now, this doesn't hit as much. Yes, we know we should drink water, and yes, we know we should meditate, but we still don't really do it. Like, can you put a little bit of an urgency to this, so it's more of a preventative aspect that we can look at these points? And maybe in my case, I think that would help if you can paint us a picture. You've worked with many people in these fields. What are some of the worst things that could happen if we neglect our health? I'll let whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first, and then I'll maybe it's a good transition to the physical health. So founder mental health is the untapped resource per se in the startup world. Untapped resource, and I'm saying untapped because people have no clue how powerful it is if you have it. Neglect it and you'll find your unicorn dreams and everything turning into a tragedy, because you may not survive the endless roller coaster ride that you signed up for. And you may give up in the wrong moment, just, hours or weeks before you break through, right? Before it becomes a huge thing. You may never take off. You may not be the leader that you could be. And you may not have the lasting impact that you envisioned. And you may very well damage the people around you, whether it's your relationships with your family and friends, your employees, your customers. All is very vital for your success. And worst of all, you may not enjoy the ride that you signed up for. Not while you are on the journey, you're not going to be able to enjoy it because you're hustling only, not taking a break, nor the fruits of your labor. There are many, many examples out there, from entrepreneurs that we know, be it, Elon Musk or others, who are not able to enjoy what they created because they're on that constant battle, because, they don't sleep, they don't, they have 10 children, but they can't really cater to them, etc. Because you'll be used to want bigger, better, faster, more if you don't have that moment of reflection of what are you doing here? Why are you doing this? And what for? Are you getting any benefit from that? So you may, if you don't pay attention to mental health, not only lose things, but even if you achieve great success, money, riches, fame, you may be so addicted to stress and to endless dopamine hits and to this hustle culture that you'll be unable to detach your identity, who you really are, your true self and self-worth, from the success of your venture, from the busyness of your life. And that's absolutely not worth it. And let me say one more thing about really why this is such a huge thing. We talk a lot about failure in entrepreneurship and with founders. I have seen so many teams fail because of mental health. Founders, co-founders split because of that. People disappearing in burnout because of that. People leaving the fold because of that. So failure isn't the worst case scenario as such in a startup, but neglecting your mental health while striving for success and then compromising that success because you didn't pay attention to it, that is real failure. And I wish nobody has to claim that. As a founder, you signed up for a roller coaster ride, for unpredictability, for lots of things that you cannot control. But what is predictable is that you will encounter mental health challenges. You will, it's guaranteed. So it doesn't make sense to not prepare for that. It doesn't make sense to not own it proactively. It doesn't make sense to not make room. So arm yourself, prepare, make it part of your strategy, just as you make a business plan and everything else, because you're in for a real battle. So mental health, again, is a very personal thing. There's no one size fits all, but you have to find out where you are at on the spectrum and what influences it in the wrong direction, what influences it in the right direction. And you can be the best that you ever imagined, the best in whatever you think you want to achieve.
Thank you, Karin, for painting that picture. I think that hits deep. Cindy, can you paint us a picture for the physical health?
Absolutely. Thank you, Karin. Yes, I love that picture of like going into battle without any armor on, right? So having robust physical and mental health is like going into that battle saying, yes, I want to fight this fight, but with armor on. And it just means your chances of success are so much higher. And then with that, I would like to even add to that, that if you are a founder, for example, looking for, we heard somebody in the beginning saying, looking for investment, people invest in people, not in businesses, but in people, because behind every business are people, right? So when you work on having this robust health, it's a huge asset for your business. Like Karin said, it's not just something that's maybe a luxury to have. It's a huge, huge asset. And then maybe something that is helpful to think about is that when we don't focus on our health, both mentally and physically, we accumulate a health debt the way that we would if we didn't have enough financial resources and we'd be racking up debt. We do the same when we don't have robust health, we don't have the physical and mental resources, we start to rack up a health debt. And the interest on this debt is very, very unfavorable. So that's what you were mentioning, Linda, with thinking about prevention. Instead of trying to put band-aids on and trying to treat whilst we already have a problem. And this comes to this idea of not building up this huge health debt, because it gets more costly as we age. From a physical perspective, this health debt gets more costly as we age. Things like cognitive decline, things like muscle loss that I already mentioned. Our body's just not functioning properly with a lack of micronutrients. So our food is the basis, what we eat, those nutrients is the basis for the neurotransmitters in our brain, hormones in the body that regulate the entire system. So really making this a priority is a huge asset. And what I'm actually positively moved by is seeing the shift in society. Yes, as you say, Linda, there's still this hustle, sleep when you're dead kind of culture, but we're seeing a shift in people realizing that those who are actually doing really well and being really successful, apart from the few outliers that Karin mentioned, like Elon Musk, but generally people that are successful in what they do, and hey, let's be honest, most startups fail. Right? But those that are successful, they're the ones who are taking care of their physical and mental health, especially from a long-term perspective. So I would love to share a little video of somebody who is really big in the space, Simon Sinek. Many of you might have come across his work with the book Starting with Why. He does a lot of work in the entrepreneurship space. And I would like to share a video with him that is very encouraging to see and something that can hopefully stick in your mind for what can we actually gain from putting more awareness into our mental and physical health. So, share sound.
There's a great story of two lumberjacks where every morning they start chopping wood at the same time, and every day they stop chopping wood at the same time. And every day one of the lumberjacks disappears for about an hour in the middle of the day, and every day he chops more wood than the other guy. And this goes on for months. And eventually the one who works all day, he says, I don't understand. Every day we start at the same time. Every day we stop at the same time. Every day you disappear for about an hour in the middle of the day, and every day you chop more wood than me. Where do you go for that hour? And the other lumberjack looks up and goes, oh, I'll go home and sharpen my axe. You know, that if you take an infinite mindset, it's not about how much you can get done each day. It's how much you can get done over the course of a career or over the course of a lifetime. And you got to take vacations, which means you turn off your email and you turn off your phone and you do not connect to the office. You know, go sharpen your axe. Like you take a Friday afternoon off. You know, we have something called duvet days in our company, where it's you wake up in the morning and you just can't do it. And it's not like asking, you know, it's not like vacation days where you plan ahead, and it's not like sick days, you know, where you're actually sick. Like you're not sick. You just don't want to do it. Or
I'm just not feeling it today.
You're just not feeling it, and you can't do it, and you do it responsibly. You can't leave your team in the lurch, obviously. Sure. You know, you have to exercise responsible freedom. But we give people an opportunity, instead of lying and pretending that they have a stomach bug because they just can't face the day, that they can just call up and say, I'm taking a duvet day. And everybody goes, go, we got you, you know, go.
So I shared this video from Simon Sinek because it's so powerful in how when we change the way we think about it, when we have a perspective shift in how we think about taking care of our physical and our mental health, we are sharpening that axe. We are actually showing up better, stronger, versus feeling guilty because we took some time in our lives, in our schedule, to actually prioritize our mental and physical health.
I would love to keep going with that analogy of sharpening one's axe. Maybe, Karin, you can jump into some practical tools of now that we know why it's important, what it actually means. Before we then slowly are starting to finish off this part of the call. Tell us how we can sharpen our axes, especially if we have super busy days. What are some small things that we can include into the day that have a big impact long?
Yeah, well, the axe is a very good analogy, because what you need to do first is you need to assess where you're at. How sharp is your axe right now? How much can you chop? And you need to do that every day, right? And then that means measure what you want to measure, what you want to manage, and you need to do it consistently. So every day, maybe you plan in time for self-care. You make time in your calendar. You schedule it in. You make it part of your strategy, and you learn to defend that time like it's your most valuable asset, like it's a date with your girl or boyfriend, right? So you make room, and you really protect that time where you're going to sharpening your axe, whether that's taking a break, getting some naps in, making time for cooking, making time for a human relationship that has nothing to do with work, but it needs to be something that works for you, where when you come back from that break or whatever you do, you feel more, you feel stronger, you want to have ideas, you want to attack work again, whatever works best for you. It doesn't have to be meditation. And then you start building healthy micro routines, and you make them your second nature. And here's why. They will kick in when times get rough. Believe me, and they will get rough. If your body is used to take deep breaths every time you get rejected, you will endure that rejection. And you don't even have to schedule time to do the breathing, but you have to get the habit going, the muscle going. If your default is to go on a long walk every time chaos breaks out in your company, you will find it easier to just do it and go. If you've learned to identify negative self-talk and self-sabotaging behaviors, you'll catch them right before they can creep into your life and wreak havoc. Okay, so it's all about building small habits, about making it a strategy, about defending room in your schedule. And the last one that I really, really believe in is don't do it alone, because you may not always muster up the courage or the time, whatever. Get someone, a partner, a sparring partner, a friend, whatever it is, and go on that journey together and hold each other accountable, encourage each other, cry together, laugh together, celebrate your victories. Don't do it alone. Get a community, get a group. So that would be my take on the mental health. But again, measure, assess, then keep it sharpened by checking whether it needs sharpening, your axe. Get in the habit of doing it, walking away from your chopping place and getting a break, doing the things that give you joy and give you strength, and don't do it alone.
Cindy, what about the physical?
Absolutely fantastic. Such great advice. And I really love what you shared there about assessing to know where you need to sharpen. And that comes back to what I mentioned at the beginning, personalization. Like you don't have the same dull spots the same as everyone else. So you can't just follow what somebody else is doing to sharpen their axe. You need to find out what you need to do in your life, in your circumstance. And this is also changes depending on where you are in your business journey, where you are in the day, where you are in the week, where you are in the month. So knowing that, but some of the things that come up time and time again, especially with physical health, I would love to share here just some practical things that we could do. But first, I would like to ask, and maybe we can get a show of hands or just writing in the chat, but who knows, so you can answer yes or no, who knows how much money is in their bank account? So whether that's your personal bank account or your business bank account, who knows how much money? I know exactly how much I have. Unfortunately, yes. We see yes. Someone saying no. Okay, yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, that's a lot of yeses that is coming in. So of course, as founders or soon to be founders, we are very hyper aware of our financial resources, right? Also, many of us probably have a budget. This is also something that I know with Startup Campus, they talk about how to think about managing your finances. And this is all important for startup life or even just for financial success. But if I could ask, and maybe also in the chat, you can write yes or no, who knows how much energy their bodies use on a daily basis for functioning? Who knows a rough estimate of how much energy their body is using? On average, because it changes as well. We can see in the chat, yes or no. Okay, yes. Some approximate, please. Oh, we can't measure it exactly. Nope. Okay, so we have a variety of responses. Some do already know, some others not so much. But what I would like to share is that this kind of auditing, so a nutritional audit, a lifestyle audit, an audit of the things that we know can help us sharpen that axe, this should not be neglected. Like Karin said, we should assess, we should measure, and then we should take small actionable steps in order to improve that. So I'm very briefly just going to share a quick cheat sheet that pertains particularly to physical health, but can also help you with mental health as well. So here we have a little cheat sheet of what can we measure to see where our axe might need sharpening when it comes to physical health. What's a goal? So again, it's very personalized and your needs will depend on your lifestyle, your circumstances, your history. But these are some goals that nutrition science points to, are very helpful. And then what are some small action steps? And these are just some examples. So we'll briefly look at measure. What's your step count? A goal could be trying for that 10,000 steps a day. Now, to share, this is not a magic number, although it's WHO recommends this number, but it's just because it's a proxy for us moving our body, which is very important for humans to do. We are built to move. One small action you can take when you have those long business calls, when you're just on an audio, put your earphones in and do that walking. It's a brilliant way to increase steps. What we could also measure is our body fat percentage versus our muscle. And we want to aim to be in that range of a healthy body fat with a healthy amount of muscle to really prevent us from bone loss when we're older, from fractures when we're older. It's not just about looking amazing, it's about really having that robust health. We could try to increase resistance training, quality sleep, trying to increase the amount of sleep we get before midnight has been shown in research to be very beneficial. Even 15 minutes before midnight can really help for that quality sleep. Protein intake, are we getting regular protein throughout the day? Karin also mentioned making time for cooking. So just getting 2 tasty recipes that you know it's your go-to things and that you prepare that and you have that. Or if you really are on the go all the time or have no cooking skills or are not interested in cooking, can you outsource? There's so many great companies now that do nutritious whole foods that are meal prepped that you can just buy and have. It's no excuse anymore that you don't have the time. And then vegetable intake as well. Don't be afraid of frozen vegetables. That's one practical tip I have. They get a bad rap, but frozen vegetables are just as nutritious as vegetables and actually can help reduce food waste. So as an entrepreneur, you might get a last minute meeting. You might have 3 nights in a row where you're really busy and you can't cook what you thought you wanted to cook. Often people that I work with at Nutrition Zurich, they say, I don't like throwing away vegetables. I don't buy it because I don't know when I will get time to cook it. Frozen vegetables is great to stock that so that you always have something on hand. So this little cheat sheet just shows that it doesn't have to be this crazy, overwhelming thing. It doesn't have to be that everything is perfect. But that if you can just put in small practices, look where your axe needs sharpening. If you're getting 1,000 steps on average a day, maybe you start there. Just pick two things from this list and try to work on that. That's already enough to start sharpening your axe and be even better in the work that you do.
Maybe I can add something quickly. So if you're not into lists and printing things out, download the EarKick app. We have all these routines that you can that are automatic, and it's all tracked. And you can increase, decrease. You can see your stats over time. You can do so many things, and most of all, you can speak about it because you need to journal if you want to get things off your chest. Whether you speak it or write it, what the first thing towards good mental health is to express yourself. Really, on a very regular basis, and don't bottle it up. Like, get it out there, get it out of your head, out of your chest, and then you have your opportunity to take a step back, look at it, work with it, and most of the times you'll find the solution within yourself. You know the solution, and that keeps you motivated to go and do all the things that Cindy has been mentioning, and not make it a huge task list on top of your already existing one. So there are solutions, not just ours, there are solutions out there that help you keep track of things, help you establish good habits, and keep you motivated, whether it's with streaks or gamification or whatever it is. And they're all good for you, but start talking about it, start expressing yourself, and start tracking.
Absolutely. I just had so many of the founders, entrepreneurs that I work with, they really value that the most out of the coaching. It's learning a bit about the nutrition science. Yes, it's learning how to optimize, but it's really the support, like I was mentioning before with my dad, and especially with all the information we have available at our fingertips. It's not a lack of information, it's a lack of implementation. So if you need the support, if you feel like you don't want to plan it out for yourself or see where your weaknesses are and where you can strengthen, work with someone. Use a program like Karin has, EarKick, or work with a coach like myself or with a platform like we have to support you, because that is really, really going to, again, give you that ROI, that return on investment of your time, and then how much robust health you can get out of that. Ask for help.
And yeah, in the same direction, ask for help. You can start to ask your questions now. I think it's a really nice opportunity for the audience that we have you two here. Yeah, it's not often that you can ask one question focusing on both your physical and mental health and have experts on it. So I would love to open it up now for the audience as well to ask your questions. If you feel comfortable, please share your video, turn on your microphone, so it can just be in a more intimate space so you can feel comfortable to ask your questions. If you don't feel comfortable to do that, because it's also sensitive topics, as Karin also mentioned a lot of times, you can write your question in the chat, and then I can ask them for you. But yes, also if you want to raise the hand so I can see who has a question next, we can organize it that way. Good, but I really encourage everyone to use the opportunity while we have it. Yes, Vanessa.
So I actually have a question. I really got into like journaling and planning my days and meditating and visualizing and stuff. And at a certain point, it was a time when I had a little bit more free time, but my morning routine took up to 2.5 hours, and I wanted to ask, is there too much?
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't express it any better, because you can overdo things. It's always about balancing it. And again, you have to have like a minimal thing going, which is you do it no matter what, whether you are actually losing your business, losing your job, somebody died in your family, just think of the worst things that could happen to you and pick something that you can still do. Like making your bed, if you know the video, right? Just do it right in the morning, something small. And that will enable you to have like a minimal baseline. And you can put other things on top of it if you have more time. So don't become a perfectionist, because perfectionism is the opposite of good mental health. Pick small things that you can really do on the go. This is also the reason why for journaling, in our app, you can just journal by speaking into it. You don't have to do anything else. It gets automatically put into your diary. You don't even have to do anything. Just speak into it for a few seconds and the rest is automatically done. And you'll get an answer and you'll get evaluation, etc. Validation, sorry. So yes, make sure that it doesn't become an obsession to have so many good habits. A good rule of thumb is pick maximum 3 small things. And then you do them for a couple of weeks or months until they become second nature, like brushing your teeth. And then you can think about adding another one. And also, like, don't do things for the sake of doing things. Measure it. Does meditation really help you? Does the breath work really pay out? And the ones that actually are effective for you, those you keep, and everything else, cut it out. I don't do meditation, for example. I do sports, and that's fine for me. I've measured it. I can see the data on it. So be careful not to make another source of stress next to your startup just because of trying to be perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic answer. I would just add to that so often we look to over-optimize, but just finding the things that work for you. And what often happens with me when clients come to me and they want to get in the best shape of their lives and they're so ready and they're so motivated and they want to do it all. They're like, yes, I can go to the gym 4 times a week. I can cook all the things, I can do it. And we say, whoa, slow down there. What can we plan for the worst version of yourself? So we've spoken a lot today about how can you become the best version of yourself. But when you're trying to say what habits you just want to build, you have to think about what is the worst version of myself? What is it when I just had a horrible meeting? What happens when I just get 5 things scheduled back to back? What do I do then? So really a big hack is, how do I plan to live with the worst version of myself? What can that worst version accomplish on a daily basis? So with that morning routine, Vanessa, mini.
It's not at this stage anymore. It's like now it's way more lean, but at the time I was like, I got a little bit stressed out of it, yeah, to be honest, to fit everything into my morning routine. Thank you so much for your tips. And
We've
I
all been there.
they get overexcited at one point. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. Namrata, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. What's your question?
Yeah, hi guys. I really love the session today. So thanks for all the great input. Definitely writing a lot of stuff down in my own notes. I wanted to pose a question to Karin. You mentioned this very interesting thing, which for some reason my brain has picked up on, and it's going click, like there's a light bulb moment. And that was the part where you said, like you have a business strategy, make sure that you have a mental health strategy written down so that you can know how to deal with the challenges that are bound to come. Now, for me, for some reason, having that mapped out for my logical brain, that sounds very, it sounds like a very good way of making me do it because it's associated with the word strategy, which is kind of a keyword for my brain. It's a buzzword. So what would you say should be added if one is designing such a strategy as a founder? What would you put in such a strategy just to get things kicked off for me? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Again, it's very, it differs from person to person. I will share what I do, okay? So I know when I'm the worst version of myself, as Cindy just said. And I take down like what are typical signs of me getting close to that. For example, I skip lunch. I postpone. I tell friends that I can't go because I have work, or I, without thinking about it, I take out my weekend and I push work into weekend. So a strategy would be to have one day in the week where there is no compromise. Like it's sacred. The Sunday, for example, you're not going to touch work, whatever it is. Even if your house burns down or your company burns down, you're not going to go to do that. The other thing that you can do is have a list of things that go like if then, because believe me, when you're in chaos and problems, your thinking doesn't function very well and your decision making is troubled. So if this happens, if I get rejected, this is the first thing I'm going to do. If I run out of money and this feeling in my stomach, whatever, this is what I'm going to do. And you can do those things when you're still doing fine, right? So it's a time planning thing, but also an action planning thing. So that you have sort of like an SOS kit that, when you have this, when an investor just told you that your idea is shit and that you're never going to make it, then you look into your list and what's a good thing to do right then and now, right? Call your mother or whatever it is. So it's a bit of preparation work, and it will change over time because you figure out what works immediately, what works in a long term, and what is a tactical decision to make, right? But you have a relevant set ready. And that is the thing that gets me through. So every time I have one of those moments, I'm already used to what needs to come next or where I can look it up. And so you can really, that's your armor. That's a strategic and tactical, preparation, if you will, apart from making time and having a network of friends or community that will listen to you no matter what and will support you no matter what. We often, as founders, as musicians, as artists, we work alone. We're lone wolves, no good.
No, totally agree with that. Thanks a lot. This sounds so familiar with an exercise I do with my clients or my previous employers, which used to be called the brutal truths. And I think it's just making a brutal truths version for your own self. Like, this is me. I'm not perfect, and write down. I love your tips and tricks of just writing down. If this happens, I know I behave like this, and here's how I want to behave the next time it happens. So thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much for the question. We have many more questions in the chat. Also, if you want to ask your question in person, you can just raise the hand. But in the meantime, I'll read out one of the questions from the chat, which was, if you're currently really experiencing negative emotions, you're feeling super low, maybe I'm putting this in my own words now, but the way I interpret it is, if you're at a point where you actually don't really feel like doing anything, like none of the great, okay, I'm going to try to sleep more, it's resonating because you're just too low, you just don't have any motivation. What's maybe one thing that you can do to kind of try to get into the right track again?
Yeah, I'm going to take that, Cindy, but you can come in and so really, if you can, first of all, get it all out, because thoughts and feelings and all of that are just what they are, thoughts. They're not reality. You feel like that, and you think that you're a failure or whatever, get it out. Make a distance between you and what is going on in your mind or in your body. Write it down, speak it into an app, do something like that. And then look at it from a distance. If that is too much, get someone to do it with you, someone you trust, right? Because that's the first thing that you need to do, is to declutter a bit and get a little bit of an order into it. You're not going to be motivated right away. You're not going to jump and do everything again. But then you can plan and you can say, okay, what of all of this can I control? And what can I not control? What you can't control, a tragedy, whatever, the weather, put it aside. And focus on what you can control. And you will find that in the worst situations of your life, there is still a little tiny bit that you can control. Even if it's just making your own soup or, picking up the phone. There are always things that you can control. And then you work your way out of your crisis by going from one thing that you can control to the next. Again, hopefully with the help of someone.
Absolutely, that's so incredible. I don't have much to add, just that support system, of course, is invaluable. If you don't have that support system, trying to get out of your own head, and you can practice this when you're not in crisis. So what helps you to get out of your own head? Of course, if you have someone to speak to help get things out, that's one of the best ways to get out of your own head. But maybe for you, it's as simple as listening to your favorite song. Maybe it's for you as simple as looking at a picture that just brings back lots of memories. So the brain is incredible like that, and it's able to shift the state you're in very rapidly if you give it a stimulus. So like looking at what's the worst thing you can do, to sit and ruminate with your thoughts and kind of have it spinning over and over in your mind. And the best thing you can do is doing something that can help shift you out of that state, whether that be your favorite song, or picking up the phone, as Karin said, speaking to somebody that always brings positivity. So anything that can help you snap out of that state. But practicing what works for you. So
I think looking at other questions too, I think one part that also Simon mentioned, that the way he is leading in his company, and for the people of us who are maybe not founders or are founders and want to be good leaders, what can you recommend leaders or employers to do to actually foster a little bit of this thinking? Because some tips that you mentioned, for example, going on a walk when you have a long meeting, maybe for some people this is looked at, why is this person on a walk right now? It's not really, it's something, or taking a break in between the day to get to fuel or energy. I think if you understand this, then it makes a lot of sense. But I think many of us are maybe not fortunate enough to be in this environment where this behavior actually gets encouraged. Do you have any tips for leaders, for employers, of adapting this mentality?
Yes. Well, definitely walking meetings are one, but also, really going and looking at opportunities where you can make this happen, no matter how times are in your company. Being proactive about talking about it and walking the talk. So I used to be the one to skip the lunch meetings. I would be the first one to work too much. And there is no way you cannot communicate. This communicates to the people who look up to you or who work with you. So be very mindful of how your own life plays out in their eyes. If you answer emails, which I used to do at midnight, or if you send out emails, worse, during the weekend, that you're setting an example. So don't try to be perfect, because none of us is. But be very aware that you're communicating with everything you do, for the good or for the bad side. Taking meetings while you walk, one-on-ones while you walk, really telling people that you're going to stay at home because your mental health needs some rest. That goes a very long way. Don't tell people that your office is always open or your door is always open, because that leaves them thinking, can I go? Can I not go? Proactively engage people in conversation about mental health, about health. Really be vulnerable and have those talks. Take time for things and be very clear in, hey, this is now because I'm very interested in you as a person, versus this is something that, it's just business. It's the project. It's not you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not talking about you as a human being, as a friend. I'm talking about the project. Like, again, it boils down to walking the talk and having a very, very good way of communicating, whether it's with words, with actions, or with the way you lead.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Linda, so something that I love to see with my clients who work with some of the big banks here in Zurich, that they are now starting to have these one-on-one sessions after working with Nutrition Zurich with their team, saying, hey, that feedback session we have that is actually usually quite challenging to have that conversation anyway, let's do it moving. So that culture is shifting. But one thing just a quick tip that I would give, if you don't yet have this culture, if you don't yet have that, or if you are working in a team that actually actively doesn't support that, is control the things you can control, like Karin said. And one of that is to look at your schedule and actually look where you have time leaks. Because even the most dedicated of us, even the most driven of us, even when we really believe that we are working super hard, and very often we really are, but we could also find time leaks. So if you really do 2 or 3 days in your calendar and mark what you do for every 15 to 30 minutes, you might be surprised where you find you have little pockets of time where you may be getting distracted, too much time on LinkedIn, or maybe when you thought, you need some relaxation time. Yes, it's very important, but is 3 hours of Netflix really necessary for relaxation? Is that most effective way to get that relaxation that you need? So maybe there you can also find some times where you might be actually not optimizing the time that you do have to focus on your mental and physical health as a busy founder.
This actually touches base on another question that was asked, social media. What do you guys think about it? How does it influence us? Do you have any strategies of how to deal with it best? Because it's inevitable, we kind of have to use it. How can we use it best without it being too much of a destruction for our health?
That's a huge one. It's a huge one. Well, it's the way you have to think about social media is be very honest with yourself. Why are you scrolling? Why are you turning to social media in the midst of work? Usually it's because you're trying to distract yourself from something that is painful, maybe a project that you need to work on, or maybe because somebody's been mean to you. There are many ways why we turn to sweets or to social media to distract from what we're feeling, okay? If that is the case, pay attention to what is hurting you and, what is making you want to disappear in social media. If you make time intentionally because you want to go on social media, have a great time, connect with your friends, learn something, great, do it, but do it intentionally. So that means schedule time and do it with no bad consciousness. just go and enjoy your time, do your stuff, and stop at the time that you scheduled into your agenda. Everything outside of it is probably trying to run away from something, you trying to not look at a certain uncomfortable feeling. And I'm not saying that uncomfortable feelings are bad. They're actually very important for us. But running away from looking at it and observing yourself is very tempting when you have social media at your fingertips anytime. Don't go to bed with your phone, like leave it outside, all these things that you already know, and make sure that that somebody helps you hold yourself accountable for that. No phone on the table when you're eating, things like that. But the most important thing, again, do it intentionally. If you go on social media, if you go binge Netflix, whatever that is, if it's not intentional because you planned it, it's probably a distraction.
That's fantastic. And yes, it goes the same with stress eating or eating for comfort. Like, food can also be pleasure, food can be enjoyment, food can be bonding. Now in the wintertime, we have raclette here, we have fondue. These are all great for celebration. It's incredible. But if you do it intentionally, it has a really different outcome than if you're just doing it on impulse. If you're eating that bag of chips, enjoy it, don't feel guilty. But if it's just an impulse, like Karin said, like with social media, to distract from anxiety, from stress, from feelings, that's when you need to look at it. And if you can work with someone that can hold you accountable, start changing those behaviors, whether it be too much social media or too much overindulgent food, it can help you to first break those patterns and then start building new ones.
Also, in the direction of social media and apps, the question was asked for what you recommend for top 3 apps for measuring and tracking both mental and physical health. I would like to add a twist on it too, that we think about, is it even worth tracking? When is it too much tracking? Do we need to really track sleep and eating and everything? Or what's a good balance to have? Because I totally see also with EarKick, there is many things that it makes so much sense to just have a little check on where are we on the spectrum now, and for that we need to track. But maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea of, maybe you have some favorite apps, but also actually makes sense to track.
Yeah, a very important point. Well, I'm very biased because we built EarKick, but our intention with EarKick is that you actually have an overview and a control, not that you go into the nitty-gritty details and become obsessed with tracking everything. That's not the point. Look, the reason why you track things and why you have technology help you is so that you don't have to keep it all in your head. If I ask you how were you feeling last week, you probably struggle to answer that because you don't know, right? You don't remember what you did 3 days ago. How are you going to remember all of your moods and anxieties and all that? So it's to take things that you have difficulties keeping in your head in an accurate way, and having machines do that, connecting the dots between the weather, your well-being, what you ate, and maybe how you slept. That's mathematically difficult for a human being to keep track of all of that. Let the machines do that. When it comes to EarKick, we give you a weekly report of the most relevant things. Not everything, just the one. It's a little blurb. This is what has changed. This is what you need to maybe pay more attention to. This is what you did great, for example. And that's it. Don't spend hours looking at your stats and worrying about a little bit here and a little bit there. But what you need to get out of tracking and out of journaling and all that is the sense of agency. Never forget, if an app or any solution for that matter doesn't give you agency and doesn't make you feel more empowered and freed of the worries, then it's not a good app, right? Very simple.
Just on that, so with that agency, what Karin's saying there is that it needs to help you have the knowledge to take good action steps, but not just knowledge for knowledge's sake, not just data for data's sake. So also, again, bias here, but with Nutrition Zurich, we also work with an app to help our clients track, it's very important for that initial phase when you're doing that nutritional audit, when you're trying to see where are those underlying weaknesses, where are those big rocks that if you shift those behaviors, you can get the biggest bang for your buck. So that's the point of that tracking process. And then beyond that, it's just there to help you have that accountability, have that coach by your side that can help give you those nudges when you need it, because we all have our up times and our down times, and having actually a real human on the one side as well can also be very motivating for some if you have learned that that's helpful for you to keep up those healthy behaviors. So I think with the apps, of course, like Karen's with mine, that focuses on physical health, but then there are also many apps out there, things that can track your nutrition, can track your sleep, but I'll actually go a little bit off course and recommend apps that actually don't just help you learn knowledge, but help you actually do things. So anything that can help you get those check marks, gamification, these apps seem to be really helpful. And I'll be happy to share some links as well that we can send off after the session.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we actually, we've reached our end time. We will send a follow-up email after this call, where we also put some resources that we've gathered now. Also with the LinkedIn links to both of our experts, plus Nutrition Zurich and Earcake, so you can check those out, as well as the recording in case you've missed a part of this session. But yes, I would love to thank both of you so much for taking the time today, for sharing all of your knowledge and bringing it in bite-sized pieces, because I know you know so much about these topics, so it's really difficult to actually hone it down to the most important parts, because as we know, as founders, there is not that much time. We don't have resources. So what are really important things that we need to be focusing on? So I also hope for the participants who mentioned in the beginning what kinds of topics you're mostly struggling with. I think most of those topics we've been able to cover through Karin and Cindy. So thank you for joining, and a huge thank you to our two experts. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.